She thought it was snowing. In July, in the desert. In New Mexico. She was 13 years old. Her name was Barbara Kent, and she was swimming with her friends in a river near. Hoidozu. They laughed. They splashed. They were kids. They didn't know that 40 miles away the United States, military had just changed the world forever. At 5:29 a.m., on July 16th, 1945, the first atomic bomb in human history exploded. Code name, Trinity. The flash was brighter than the sun. The cloud rose 7 miles into the sky. People 100 miles away thought the world was ending. But in Ruidoso, 40 miles downwind, the morning was quiet. At first, Barbara remembered it years later. She said, "We were all shocked. Then, suddenly, a large cloud appeared above us and strange lights in the sky. It even hurt our eyes to look up. The whole sky looked strange, as if the sun had suddenly appeared, but very bright. The bomb cloud rose 7 miles high. Then the wind did what wind does. It carried the bomb east, toward Huidozu, toward the children. Hours later, it started. White flakes, falling from a blue sky. In July, in the desert. Barbara said, "We were excited. We thought it was snow. We put on our swimsuits and went back to the river to play. We grabbed that white stuff and put it on our faces. But it wasn't cold," Barbara said. "Instead of being cold like snow, it was warm. We thought it was warm because it was summer. We were only 13 years old. That warm snow was fallout. Radioactive dust. Pulverized tower, pulverized desert sand, irradiated by a nuclear explosion. And it was landing on children. How did this happen?" The Manhattan Project scientists chose the Jornada del Muerto because it was, quote, "remote." They wrote in reports that the area was uninhabited, that no one lived there. That was false. Thousands lived downwind. The Chavez family ranch was 19 kilometers away. The town of Tularosa was 50 kilometers away. Ruidoso was 65. And hundreds of smaller ranches dotted the land between. No one warned them. No one evacuated them. No one gave them iodine pills. No one even told them a test happened for years. Why? Because in 1945, the bomb was the most secret project in American history, and secrecy was more important than safety. So the snow fell, the kids played, and the radiation did its work. Silently, invisibly, cell by cell. Barbara Kent would go on to develop cancer. Not once, not twice, multiple times in her life. She had her thyroid removed. She had cancer in her breast, in her lymph nodes. She lived, but she fought. And she was one of the lucky ones. Because in the years after Trinity, cancer rates in New Mexico counties downwind spiked. Thyroid cancer, leukemia, especially in children. The government would later call these people downwinders. But on July 16th, 1945, they were just kids, playing in the river, playing in the snow that wasn't snow. Barbara's story is one story, but she wasn't alone. All across the Tularosa Basin, families woke up to a strange day. Pedro and Esperanza Chavez ran a cattle ranch. 19 kilometers from ground zero, they were closer than anyone. On the morning of July 16th, Pedro was out with the herd when the sky flashed white. He thought it was lightning, but there were no clouds. Hours later, a fine white dust settled on his land, on his water troughs, on the backs of his cattle. Within days, The cattle were sick. Their hair fell out. They developed sores on their skin. Some died. The government came and bought the worst ones. They paid Pedro, but they told him nothing. They said it was a disease. Pedro didn't believe them because he saw the dust. And his family was sick too. His wife, Esperanza, developed burns on her arms. Not from fire, from the dust. His children had nosebleeds that wouldn't stop. His infant daughter died the next year of leukemia. She was too. This wasn't just the Chavez family. The Hinkle Ranch, the McDonald Ranch, the town of Tularosa, the Mescalero Apache Reservation. They all reported the same thing, a bright flash, then ash, then sickness. The fallout from Trinity didn't just fall on Ruidoso. It spread in a plume northeast over 100 miles. It crossed farms. It crossed towns. It crossed into the food chain. Here's how radiation works. You can't see it. You can't smell it. But when that dust landed on grass, cows ate the grass. The radiation, especially iodine-131, concentrated in their milk. Then children drank the milk. In children, iodine goes straight to the thyroid gland, in the neck, and there it sits, and it bombards the cells with radiation, year after year. That's why thyroid cancer became the signature disease of Downwinders. Because the government tested a bomb and children drank the fallout for breakfast. Did the scientists know this could happen? Yes. Declassified documents show that before Trinity, the Manhattan Project's medical team calculated the fallout risk. They knew wind could carry radiation to populated areas. They wrote it down, but they tested anyway. Because the war was on. Because the bomb had to work. Because they assumed the risk was acceptable. Acceptable to who? Not to Pedro Chavez. Not to his daughter. Not to the hundreds of New Mexico families who still, to this day, are fighting for recognition. For decades, the government denied everything. If your cattle died, it was disease. If your child got cancer, it was bad luck. If you asked questions, you were unpatriotic. So the ranchers buried their dead. They sold their land. And they stayed quiet. But they didn't forget the snow. And they forget us. And they forget the lie. The day after Trinity, the government issued a press release.
Father, I come before you today feeling tired, weak, and overwhelmed. Your word in Isaiah 40:29 says you give strength to the weary and increase the power of the weak.